Our next session, Collaboration for a Sustainable Future, how suppliers can help customers achieve their sustainability goals and drive business growth. Please welcome to our stage, Moderator, Managing Director, ESG Transition Advisory, PJT Partners, Amelia Pan, Vice President, Society ESG, Diageo North America, Jay Karam, Vice President, Sustainability, Smurfit Westrock, Christopher Davidson, and Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer, Ecolab, Emilio Tenuta.
Great. Well, welcome everyone to our conversation on collaborating for a sustainable future. In this session, we'll be hearing from three significant actors in the paper packaging value chain. Consumers are increasingly favoring packaging materials that can be easily recycled and composted. In 2024, the global paper packaging market is estimated at nearly $410 billion and is projected to grow at a constant annual growth rate of 4.7% in the next 10 years. I think if I just look at the number of boxes that come to my house through deliveries every week, we can kind of understand where this shift is coming from. So this gives us an understanding of not only the scale of the paper packaging industry, but also the economic opportunity presented by the adoption of sustainable practices. I'm pleased to be joined today by Chris Davidson from Smurfit Westrock, one of the nation's largest sustainable packaging companies with over 100,000 employees working in 40 countries. Next to me is Jay Karam, Vice President of Society at Diageo, a global leader in beverage alcohol with familiar brands like Johnnie Walker, Bailey's, and Guinness. And at the end there is Amelia Tenuta, Chief Sustainability Officer for Ecolab, a global leader delivering sustainable solutions across industries ranging from dairy farms to hospitals to oil refineries and paper plants. So each of our panelists represents a key pillar in the paper packaging supply chain. Diageo is an important customer of Smurfit Westrock, which produces their packaging, and Ecolab is a partner to both companies in helping them provide solutions that reduce water consumption and water waste at their facilities. Today, Jay, Chris, and Amelia will share their perspectives on why it's important to work with partners to drive sustainable change, what are they doing to make that change happen, and how they implement practices that align sustainability goals with enterprise growth. So we've got a great conversation ahead and not a lot of time. So we won't be taking Q&A at this session, but the panels will be available at the networking hour immediately outside of the main stage after this. So let's jump right in. I'll ask each of our panelists to tell us a little bit about their roles and why strategic partnerships are important to those roles. Jay, why don't you start?
Thanks, Amelia. My name is Jay Karam. I'm the lead for our Society Spirit of Progress agenda at Diageo North America. As Amelia mentioned, Diageo is one of the world's leading beverage alcohol producers. We produce iconic brands like Johnnie Walker, Smirnoff, Guinness, Tanqueray. Hopefully many of your favorites. And as the lead for this program in North America, I'm responsible for executing our 2030 agenda across the largest market for the business, which includes Canada and the US. Our Spirit of Progress agenda is composed of ensuring that consumers consume our products responsibly and to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion across the hospitality sector as well as within our walls, and then ultimately to become a leader in sustainability within our operations and across our supply chain. And we're doing that by ensuring that we meet zero carbon operations by 2030 and to have our Scope 3 emissions by 2030 as well as advancing water efficiency and sustainable packaging. So in terms of what our goal as a business and the drive for us, where it comes from, it's real to be a sustainable leader in the space. It's really about how we want to do business. Being an alcohol company, we're also, frankly, we're an agricultural company, and so for this, it is ensuring that we have a resilient business, that we have surety of supply, and that we're able to meet the quality expectations that consumers entrust us with. And when you are reliant on water, on grains, on the agricultural sector, it is absolutely critical that we invest in building resiliency with our supply chains so that we have access to materials when we need it and deliver those products to consumers when they want it. When I look at sort of the other drivers for us, internally, this is, we have top-down buy-in from the C-suite and the board level. They've set an imperative for us to deliver on these expectations. We set our targets in 2020, and we need to execute with action, with implementation, at pace through the decade. And ultimately, is the framework they've set out is delivering value for the business, for consumers, communities, and the planet. Everything that we go through, everything that we pursue is vetted through that framework of value. And then, the other piece is our employees and the brands themselves. I think we really are finding more and more push from the employee base to deliver sustainability with intention. And I think when you look at brands like Guinness and Bullet, there's a real motivation to align brand equity, brand purpose with delivering a sustainable product and investing in those types of partnerships, investing in that supply chain transformation.
Great, thank you. Chris, how about you? Tell us a little about strategic partnerships in your role.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Chris Davidson. I lead a team that works in Smurfit Westrock, and just to kind of level set everybody, we are a relatively new company, about 2.5 months old actually. Two legacy companies, Westrock and Smurfit Kappa, well known globally. So we are now one of the largest packaging solution suppliers in the world. Amelia talked about all those boxes coming to our house. I'm sure some of those are Smurfit Westrock boxes. Jay talked about the liquor that you guys make. We make packages for those. So I have a customer on my right, I have a customer and a supplier on my left. So we are part of that virtuous supply chain, if you will. And from my perspective, when I think about partnerships, partnerships is the basis for everything that we do. We're a business, obviously. We have customers who have very ambitious targets that they're trying to achieve. And the best way that we've found to do that is not through a transactional nature. Transactional, sure, it gets you some of the way, but when you can have a partnership that allows you to benefit from a business perspective, but also allows you to provide services or products that helps your customers reach their targets, that's kind of what we're aiming for. So it's moving from that transactional piece to the strategic piece and aligning so that we can do things like help them to reduce plastic waste. We can help them with their Scope 3 emissions. We can help them in other ways, and whether it's around some of the social issues as well. We've had conversations around living wage, those types of activities. So it's all around making sure that as we move our business forward, we're moving our customers forward, and our suppliers are coming with us as well.
Great, thank you. Emilio, how do you fit into this value chain?
Well, Amelia, thanks for that question, and it's great to be with Smurfit Westrock and also Diageo. What an incredible, panel that we have today around, like you said, the value chain. For Ecolab, I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Ecolab, and I get the pleasure of working with sustainability leaders like we have here on stage today, really around driving the business strategy. To Chris's point, this is all about the strategic partnerships, that upper echelon of partnerships that we need to have, that Smurfit Westrock needs to have around helping them achieve their business objectives first and foremost. And Chris and I always talk about the fact that we are part of a broader committee that's driving a strategy for Smurfit Westrock to really achieve their long-term business goals while also achieving their sustainability goals at the same time. And just a moment on that, if I may. We know that there's a polarization of ESG, and we must say that the days of ESG or doing ESG for ESG's sake are over. This is about the business imperative that companies have around driving their business growth, their operational efficiency, and also do it with a smaller environmental footprint. It's all about an and, not an or. And I feel that this gives us an opportunity to really demonstrate how this is a long-term strategy, not just something that we do in a year.
Great, thank you. So Jay, I'm going to turn this to you. I mean, Diageo is known for its premium brands across a range of categories, and as a customer, you wield tremendous influence on the selection of the partners that you work with. I talked about the customers and what they wanted. You talked about the internal stakeholders and management. Where's the push for more sustainable solutions coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is from the top, it is from the consumers, but when we think about our supply chain and working with suppliers to advance these partnerships, the approach and some of the lessons that we have, one, it's about understanding our value chain. So we've embarked on completed an aggressive look at our entire supply chain, the thousands of suppliers that are involved in it, and then really, some good examples for us around cross-functional prioritization, I call it, of like identifying those really near-term opportunities to deploy solutions with our suppliers in strategically important locations for us. So one example for us is this program that we've launched in Chicago and Kentucky to address glass, and carbon associated with glass. And glass is important to us because when we look at our scope 3, which is 90% of our emissions, about half of that resides in glass packaging. And so when we look in the US, how are we going to advance near-term wins to decarbonize glass packaging? We have to invest in recycling infrastructure. And so we start zeroing it in, and then where does it make sense for us to deploy that? Where we have production locations in Chicago and Louisville. And why does it make sense there? Because there's a lot of generation of glass through the strong hospitality economies in those regions. So we've set up a partnership across our value chain with glass haulers, with other brands to improve collection opportunities and get that glass back into our glass bottles. And why I say cross-functional is the only way we're succeeding in this project is we're doing it with corporate relations, my team, with commercial, the sales team, so that they're working with those commercial accounts, the hotels, the bars and restaurants, and we're doing it with our supply teams. Everybody sets a KPI for effective delivery, and we're all working to achieve that and bring that back. So for us, that's how we're trying to build those strategic partnerships to get with our suppliers and deliver value. The other area I'd mention is we're just launching this new partnership across the beverage sector called the Refresh Alliance. And this is a way to bring renewable energy solutions to our small and medium enterprises that make up our supply chain. And why I'm really excited about this, one is working across the sector. We want to make sure that we make the burden of entry for our suppliers as low as possible so that they can take these solutions on. Two, we're not trying to do something wildly different. We looked at our peers at Pepsi and Walmart and the supplier engagement programs that they developed and are using their learnings and deploying a solution that leverages some of that best practice. And then three, we're focusing on customization. So we're really deploying a solution that is hopefully going to bring renewable solutions to our suppliers that allow them to play in the renewable market, as opposed to having them take on a very overwhelming and complicated renewable energy market space.
That's super fascinating. I mean, interestingly, a recent report by Bain found that 36% of companies, so over a third, said that they would switch suppliers if they didn't meet their sustainability expectations. And it sounds like you work very closely with your suppliers to find ways to align on those types of solutions. Chris, Smurfit is a tier 1 packaging supplier to thousands of companies around the world. Products range from insulated cardboard boxes to corrugated cardboard boxes to vegan packaging and bag-in-a-box packaging. What's one of the biggest challenges for a supplier when dealing with so many different customers?
I'm going to build on a little bit of what Jay was talking about, because it relates to one of the challenges that we've had, but what you described was actually one of the solutions. So one of the biggest challenges that we often face, and I'm speaking specifically around decarbonization here, is we consider ourselves to be a relatively mature company in this space. We've been looking and understanding our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions for a long time. We put out a sustainability report that has all 3 of those scopes assured. We're doing renewable energy. 60% of our facilities, 60% of our renewable energy across our enterprise is renewable. We're doing things like virtual power purchase agreements. So, you know, we're not new to the game. What Jay is describing, we have seen over the last 5 years is as customers start to understand that their scope 3 emissions, 90%, right, of your scope 3 is actually in your supply chain. For us, it's about 50%. So we have to put a large amount of effort into our mills, which are 90% of our footprint, to make sure that we're reducing those emissions. And the biggest challenge that we face is communicating that challenge to our customers. We will sometimes get requests for information. They try to reduce their emissions. They want to understand the carbon footprint of the products we supply to them. And we may get that same question from multiple places within the organization. So how do we juggle all of those requests when it's essentially the same request being asked in 5 or 6 different ways? We also have the issue of multiple customers asking us to provide the same information in different platforms. So it's all good stuff. Everybody's trying to head in the right direction, but that inconsistency in trying to get the information is what can sometimes be an issue.
And so, as a global organization, how do you deal with that?
A lot of talking. A lot of talking. So I spend a good bit of my time interacting with our customers at the various levels. But my team, one particular pillar of my team is focused on data analytics and reporting. And so we have direct ins to those customers. And what we try to do is explain to them, look, we are going to get you what you want. But as an example, we do CDP supply chain every year. That is a great way for us to provide the information to our customers in a format that we're already using that's easy that they can use, rather than providing them, trying to join their platform or whatever. So it's a combination of giving them what they want, trying to make it as easy on us to get the information to them, while it's in a format that they can use. And the point about Refresh Alliance I wanted to make is, we're going to become members of that. We had a conversation with the folks 2 weeks ago. But the way
breaking news.
Breaking news. But the thing I like about it is it recognizes the maturity of the different companies. So we don't necessarily need the education piece, but when you're talking about maybe looking at other parts of the world where we could potentially do a virtual power purchase agreement, and the Refresh Alliance has folks in there who can help us navigate some of those squirrely things, then it's a good place to be.
Right. Just shifting gears a little bit, Emilio, Ecolab partners with both Diageo and Smurfit on solutions to help reduce water consumption and wastewater in their facilities. Obviously, the production of paper and paper packaging is a big consumer of not only, an emitter of not only power, but also of water. Help us understand how you work with clients to build a framework to drive success. And then, we've just heard from Chris about how complicated that could be if you're in multiple jurisdictions.
So, wow, a lot to unpack there. So I would say that there's, going back to the points of a strategic partnership will have some overarching drivers that are driving the relationship over time. Business outcomes related to productivity, things around operational efficiency to drive that. The third, of course, is how can we do that with fewer natural resources, all being overarching drivers of that partnership. 2 really important aspects to how we implement that. And this is important. We have 2 very large organizations that have multiple sites in multiple regions. And so it's to be expected that not everyone's at the same place if you think of those sites. And so we want to understand, first and foremost, how do you bring everyone to that level that enables us to be viewed as best in class. And so we map along that maturity curve where they are across those 3 dimensions. And that gives us an opportunity then really to drive the first opportunity, which is around driving continuous improvement. How do we optimize and move them up that maturity curve? The second is then, how do you innovate? And this is where you create value, is by looking at ways to find ways to take innovation to step change the operation and think about it differently, think about outside the box. The challenge, of course, with that is it's slow. It's a drain on resources. And so one of the things that we've done in working with Chris and Smurfit Westrock is we call it the collaborate, prove, and move. It means that we have a step change technology opportunity. We don't just take one facility along for the ride. We take 5 facilities to be aware of the opportunity that enables us to really expedite the process in a way that enables us to move faster to drive those impacts that Smurfit Westrock is looking for. To us, that creates more value, and it does it in a way that gives a return in a much quicker way than it would otherwise.
Can you share a specific strategy or tactic that helped that collaboration? Can you give us a specific example?
Sure. So take an example. So we take paper machines are big in paper mills, of course. One of the things that we're focused on is how do you leverage improved aspects of the product quality, which is in the box board that Smurfit Westrock is looking for, or the containers that they're trying to make. That's an opportunity for us to use things like mixing technology that enables us to get improved strength or quality out the back end. So at the same time, we know that water and energy are linked. How can we reuse processed water as the drive water for that mixing technology that reduces our water and energy footprint? Now, we could do that on one paper machine, but we can also obviously leverage this at multiple sites to really move those industry and the sites to a better, higher, best-in-class level.
Fantastic. Great, so I'm looking at the time, and so I've got a final question for each of you. I think there's so much conversation about decarbonizing. We need to decarbonize faster, and obviously we've talked about the importance of strategic partnerships. How do you measure the success of these collaborations in terms of both not only sustainability goals, but also business growth? Amelia, why don't you start for a change?
Well, I mean, I feel that the opportunity to, first of all, this is not, again, a one and done. This is about a partnership and collaboration that we identify clearly what the objectives are that we're trying to reach. And I think one of the things that is important, I think, for both Diageo and Smurfit Westrock is the ability for us to really understand how this not only drives the functional benefits that the relationship is looking for, risk management, operational efficiency, but also how we create shared value. And I think that's the biggest part, and being able to bring in not only innovative partnerships, but also solutions that can enable them to grow faster and drive a higher return. Those two things have got to be connected, otherwise it becomes a real challenge with that partnership.
Yeah. Chris, do you agree with that?
I do. And I'm just going to give one quick example, but it's going to require some audience participation. Who eats pizza here? All right, cool. So who thinks pizza boxes are recyclable? Just the ones in the know. Well, everybody should put their hand up. And it's an example of...
But can you recycle pizza boxes if it's got melted cheese and sauce and stuff like that
Thanks for setting me up, yes.
That's why I don't do it.
Yes. So it's an example of a partnership, essentially, between Smurfit Westrock and Domino's Pizza. We knew that there was this myth going around that pizza boxes cannot be recycled. As a paper company, we want to get as much of that good fiber back into our system so we can reuse it multiple times. But that myth was out there. So we worked internally. We had our own R&D team do essentially, bring as much pizza into the building. Then, some of the boxes you leave a couple of pieces of pizza in, others you just see how much grease is in there. So it was really a grease study, grease and cheese study. and then prove out that we can take those boxes with grease and cheese and they can be recycled effectively. Then take that information, go to the waste services folks, change their minds. Domino's put out a website, domino'srecycling.com, where consumers can go and see whether their particular town or city will recycle pizza boxes. But the idea is take a problem, develop a strategic partnership, come up with an innovation or a solution that then is not just good for you as a manufacturer or for you as a CPG company, but it's good for the entire industry.
Yeah, fantastic. I would love to eat pizza in the name of research.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
I can just build on some of those points. I mean, from us measuring some of these success around the recycling work, yes, it's been helpful for us from availability of material, glass feedstock. That usually is that recycled content usually lower cost than virgin material. So there's very specific business benefits like that. There's also value for our consumer accounts. So this gives us another talking point, another way to engage with big hospitality chains that are really motivated on sustainability, or on with retailers, for example. It also gives them collateral when they're trying to engage their consumers. And then there's also value for the brand side as well too. Some of the sustainability projects we've launched, especially on recycling, have generated tons of consumer engagement. People are really excited about seeing their brands lean into this space when it fits within that brand story and that brand purpose for a brand like Bullet or Guinness. And then I think just on the innovation point that Emilio was talking about in terms of, we have so many different sites for deployment of innovation solutions. We also have 200 brands, and those 200 brands give us different ways to work with suppliers on different types of formats. So we just launched the lightest whiskey bottle with Johnny Walker Blue. That's a very specialized, customized, took 5 years to develop that. But in the near term, we're doing work on 90% of our Guinness cans are going to be recycled aluminum, and that's a high volume business. So we're leveraging different pieces of our portfolio to work with suppliers and innovate with suppliers in ways that leverage what they have, materials that they have available to them.
And just a question, because you have so many brands, is there a range of maturity and willingness to adopt a more sustainable approach in their packaging, or do you feel like some are leading and some need to be pushed a little bit?
Yeah, we have to follow their lead, right? And there are brands like Bullet or Guinness or Johnny Walker or Bailey's that want to test and learn, and we want to give them the space to experiment to make sure that they have the available supply and have the right set of suppliers to work with. But for us, from a corporate side, that gives us a lot of areas to play with while still advancing the ball forward overall across our footprint.
Right. Fantastic. Well, thank you all for sharing your insights and perspectives with us today. And I think as we've heard from Jay, Chris, and Emilio, collaborating with key partners on a shared vision of sustainable sourcing and energy efficient production can help all of us create better businesses and a more sustainable and resilient economy. And I think I would echo what Emilio said at the beginning, which is, we're not doing this because it's the right thing to do or because of some sort of tick-the-box exercise. It actually helps build more resilient companies. It responds to what consumers are looking for and what, as Jay mentioned, what their employees are looking for. And so ultimately, I think these cross-sector partnerships are critical to achieving all of our goals of decarbonizing the supply chain. Thank you for joining us today.